The second pizza crust I would love to show you today is not only paleo, but it's also AIP compliant. So that means that it does not use any grains, and we're using everything that's compliant with the AIP way of eating. The base of this crust I'm making is with the cassava flour. You know, I went through quite a number of different brands, experimenting as always, because that's what I do. And I have to tell you that I still feel that Otto's is the best brand that I really love. The texture, the flavor is wonderful. And so that's what's gonna be the foundation of our pizza today. If you've been to Italy and you love the true Italian pizza, then you know that a crust in true Italian pizza is actually really thin. It's changing a little bit because there is a big American tourism coming into Italy, so a lot of pizzas are becoming bigger, using yeast and more like the fluffy consistency. But the true Italian pizza is really using thin crust, and so what we're gonna be this is exactly what we're gonna be doing today. So let's just get going. It's really as simple as using 5 ingredients. We're gonna start off with the cassava flour. We already got that pre-measured. I'm gonna do just a dash of sea salt, and I'm using pink Himalayan salt here. We're gonna put in some baking powder and olive oil, that beautiful green. Can you see the color of that olive oil? It's just so rich and green. It's because I'm using unfiltered olive oil here. And lastly, we're gonna be using 1/3 of a cup of just water. You want to use lukewarm water, not hot, not cold, just in the room temperature. And really, that's all we need to do is just mix it all up to a dough. I'm using spatula, but I'll be honest with you. At home, I just use my hands, just as you would do with a true dough. So here's one of the funny things about this recipe. You look at it and you say, that's so simple. I could have thought of that. Do you know how many times did I have to make this to get it right? I can't tell you. I probably have made it, I want to say 12 to 15 times, different proportions, using different ingredients. And one of the big things that I really wanted to do is to create crusts that just have as little ingredients as possible, yet taste fabulous. So the next thing we're gonna do is use, as you can see, I'm using a cast iron that's actually originally used for making crepes. You don't have to have one like that. All you need is just a regular baking pan. And since we're gonna be spreading the pizza crust to about a 9 to 10 inch diameter, I found it really helpful to cut out a circle made out of parchment paper. And so that gives you a really wonderful guide of how much to spread your crust. I'm just gonna put it out here on this paper and start pressing. So you might be wondering, why am I using my hands instead of using a pin roller? And the answer is that the dough is so fragile and so soft that if you use a roller, it will basically stick. And so that's why we're using hands. If it gets a little too sticky, have a bit of water on the side, and that is gonna take care of it right away. And that's it, evenly spread out. There's also something about touching your food before you eat it. It just makes like a special connection with the food. And I just preheated the oven to 400 Fahrenheit. I'm gonna pop it in for 10 minutes. The crust is out of the oven, it's dry but not fully cooked. That's exactly what we want. So we're gonna start off with our pesto, the one I was telling you about, the medicinal pesto, and how wonderful of a quality it is. Got a really good question just now. Is there a dairy in this pesto? And the answer is no. As you know, my whole cookbook and way of cooking and teaching about nutrition for hormonal balance is not to use dairy. And so you can make wonderful, wonderful pesto by using similar ingredients, but not using any dairy in it. Don't really need it, really. So that's gonna be our base. Next thing we're gonna do, I already got some leeks that are pre-cut. Spread them around. I like to kind of pull them out so that they're all nicely sliced up, and that's what's gonna burn very nicely and cook really nicely in the oven. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is let's get the bacon going. I'm using 2 slices of bacon here. Now, so for those of you who are wondering, how healthy is this to be eating bacon? It's like, we're here to rebalance our hormones. She's asking us to eat bacon. Well, first thing I want to just tell you that if you are still afraid of saturated fats and you think they're going to kill us, then you gotta really read up about fats in my cookbook. And the interesting thing also about bacon and lard specifically is that, did you guys know that it contains 40% of monounsaturated fats? So the same thing that is actually found in olive oil. Then we'll have about 10 olives or so. What we're gonna do is just roughly chop them up. And we're gonna be putting them on a pizza. So you can see there's always that element of something acidic that's coming here, for example, from the pesto. We've got something salty, and that's the olives. We've got we also have acidity coming from the artichokes, which I'm gonna be putting on in just a second. I'm using 4 hearts of artichokes, and one of the wonderful things about artichokes is that they are naturally bitter. Any bitter food, you will know from my cookbook when you get it, is that bitter foods stimulate our digestion. So, you know, for a recipe like this, when there's quite a bit of, it's a pretty rich recipe, we always want to balance it off with things that will stimulate digestion, so that you've got the digestive juices going. And it doesn't feel like the food doesn't feel like it's sitting in your stomach forever. And that is the whole purpose of using things like the artichokes. The pesto also does that job beautifully because of the bitterness of the parsley, for example, that adds on to being a stimulant, a digestive stimulant as well. So that is it for now. We're going to be putting on the basil once the pizza has been cooked. I'm going to pop that into a 400 Fahrenheit preheated oven for about 15 minutes, and until really the guide will be the bacon. You want to take a look at the bacon. We want to make sure it's cooked, and then we're going to pop on some of the basil leaves. All right, and the pizza is ready. You know that moment when you just everybody's just like, when is it ready? When is it ready? Because it smells so good. And so everybody on set actually here as we're filming saying like, when is it ready? It's time to have lunch. So this is what you see, and what you would want to then do is garnish it with some basil leaves. Look at the beautiful color combination that we have going on here. Just smells absolutely beautiful too. So you can see the bacon is just done. This is exactly what we want. Yet the pizza is beautiful and the crust is all just very well done and it's thin. So let's just dive straight in. I'm gonna use the pizza is hot, so we just have to be really careful with If you are a true pizza fanatic, then you'll probably be using the roller to cut up the pizza. All right. And voila, that's our little pizza. What I recommend for you to also do is to wait for probably another 3 to 4 minutes to cool the pizza down, and that way the base is going to be a little bit more crisp, and then we all can dig in. Bon appetit!